Welcome to another Sunday Superversive live stream. I am your host, Benjamin Wheeler, and I am here with Anthony Marchetta, the most Marchetta of all Anthony Marchettas. And we are also here today to promote Cirsova's newest Kickstarter, The Mighty Sons of Hercules. How's everyone doing today?
Hey, doing all right.
Awesome. So, I'll have to admit, a lot of this stuff from the 19s. This is so. From what I've looked up, The Mighty Sons of Hercules was a show in the 1960s, right?
Yeah. It was a syndication package where they packaged up about 24 sword and sandal movies that could be shown on Saturdays, either as an hour-long special in two parts, or you'd show the whole movie in one go. And they redubbed them and gave them their own little theme song as sort of a thematic package.
Gotcha. And so this project is seeking to revive it. Why don't you talk a bit about the project and what you're looking to do with these stuff?
Yeah, so several years back, I started getting back into the old sword and sandals stuff that I saw as a kid. I used to watch those old Hercules movies and Sons of Hercules movies on like TNT or TBS or whatever on Saturdays, and I loved them. But you kind of forget about some of the stuff you watched as a kid, and then you come back to it eventually as an adult, and some of the stuff's like, oh, that was terrible. Some of it's like, oh wow, this is really cool. This is really great. And coming back to the sword and sandals stuff, as a publisher of adventure fiction, it was just a breath of fresh air. It was all coming back to me. So you had all these great movies that were available for free on YouTube to go back and
Yeah.
experience again, like Hercules and the Sons of the Sun, where Hercules washes up on the shores of Mesoamerica, or the Triumph of Hercules, where he's fighting the seven golden giants, who are these seven guys in gold body paint that just like wreck up the place. It was just really fun coming back to that. And I kind of got the idea of, why not try to do an anthology of fiction stories that kind of fit that theme. And because Sons of Hercules is sort of an anthology series itself, where it took just these unrelated adventure movies and gave them the same theme song and just gave it the framing like, oh, this is the adventures of this week's Son of Hercules. I was like, how do I translate that into an anthology? So what I ended up doing was I hit up several of our top contributors who I thought would be a really good fit for this project, gave them a set of outlines, like, okay, this is kind of what we're looking for. We're looking for adventure fiction and the theme of these old late 50s, early to mid 60s strongman adventure movies. He's got to be a good guy, no anti heroes or morally ambiguous characters. We want him to be fighting for righteousness, justice, protecting the weak and the innocent. And at some point in the story, they should be introduced as a son of Hercules. So, given those parameters, we approached several of our top writers, and this anthology with 8 stories and about 70,000 words is what we came back with.
Nice. I like it. I like it a lot. Uh, with this stuff, looks like we've got the adventures of Melkart, Maxis, Umeo, Machaist, Tumac, Diometrius, Heracles, and Machiste. Now, you've mentioned Machiste before in our conversations.
Yeah, Machiste is one of the earliest film superheroes. Everybody, thinks of like, oh, early superheroes, kind of like Superman and stuff. But this guy was about the same time as Zorro, and in the teens, he had over 20 adventure movies as part of this superhero franchise. All of them silent films, kind of Buster Keaton style, uh, action, adventure, physical action, hijinks. and it built on that tradition of the circus strongman who would perform these feats of heroic strength to entertain and please the crowds. And so this was an early opportunity to bring that into film. And when you had the big strongman revival in the late 50s through the 60s, where you were getting all the international bodybuilding superstars, the Italians decided, hey, this is a great time to resurrect our oldest film superhero. And they made another 26 Machiste movies from about 1960 through 1964.
Amazing. Are any of the other characters like this?
When it comes to the Hercules movies as a franchise, uh, not counting, of course, the completely unrelated Disney Renaissance film, which is literally just a non sequitur in terms of Hercules cinema. Uh, the only one that I think I saw was through Mystery Science Theater 3000, like a few years ago. And I'm trying to remember who was starring in it. I can't
It
recall.
was it might have been Steve Reeves if you had seen like the famous Hercules movie that kicked off the whole genre. And it would not surprise me that you would have seen it on Mystery Science Theater because probably the most well-known Machiste movie is a Mystery Science Theater showing of Mole Men against the Son of Hercules.
Oh, no kidding. No, that wasn't. It was actually from like the Netflix revival of the show, I think. That I saw it, which I'm of the opinion I actually thought was like fairly funny for the most part, even though I know that like a lot of people who were diehards for Mystery Science Theater hate it. I'm not a diehard. I think I might have watched like one episode of the original show and like one season of the Netflix revival. But anyway, the reason it was included is that it ends with out of nowhere and with no context, Bigfoot pops out and Hercules fights Bigfoot. I am almost sure that this is the reason that the movie was included. That, and there's a scene of Hercules fighting the Hydra, and it is admittedly extremely funny because it's like Hercules is hitting the Hydra with a clearly wooden or plastic sword on the neck repeatedly while wildly running around and just like whacking it in the neck until the neck falls off. But
Yeah.
the one thing I remember is watching it, and then like Bigfoot popped up at the end, and I started like crying in laughter as he like for some reason fights Bigfoot. Uh, I do not remember who starred in it. I don't think they spoke English. It was the husband of some famous actress though who played two roles in the movie. I will try and find it and see if you might have some fond
Well, I
residual
just
memory of it.
looked it up, and apparently MST3K did both the first and second of the Hercules movies with Steve Reeves recently, Hercules and Hercules Unchained. Probably the best part of Hercules Unchained is young Ulysses, who's his sidekick.
Uh, I'm trying to remember if I've seen any other live action Hercules. I don't think I have. Hercules as a character is kind of an odd one. He's been in arguably more movies than any other character, mythological, fictional, real, than anyone else ever. But I can't
Except for
recall,
maybe the Dead End Kids.
except maybe who?
The Dead End Kids.
Well, maybe. But, you know, up there, right? And, uh, and yet, I can't remember any Hercules films being considered particularly great. Like, I don't know of anyone who, like, goes. Remember that classic Hercules film? They might use the term classic to mean something like very old and has fond childhood memories, but not classic in the sense of this is an actually really good movie, which is strange, right?
I would actually say that the 1958 Steve Reeves Hercules movie is actually a good movie.
1958 Steve Reeves Hercules. Okay.
And
So
it is free to watch on YouTube. The sequel to it, Hercules Unchained, is nowhere near as good, but it still has a lot of fun stuff to it.
Yeah, oof, it is not critically well received, I can tell you that. Now, I know we here on the Superversive live stream don't care what critics say, right? Like, this is, we are proud critics, proud, trying to think of the word, we're contemptuous of critics here. But
Anti-intellectual.
with that said, it does bear out my thesis that if this is the best of the Hercules films, it's certainly not considered to be that great. And
Well, I
MST3K.
mean, it's like, if you're watching baseball movies, if you don't care about baseball that much, you're not going to enjoy stuff like Moneyball or Jerry Maguire. So,
True, but Moneyball's considered a good movie. But yeah, not I have nowhere I'm going with this. It's just that was my one experience with Hercules was the MST3K uh, thing, and I'm gonna try and find it because it was in the Netflix reboot of MST3K, and they did it, and it was very funny, unintentionally funny, I think. Though honestly, with some of these movies, it's hard to tell how much is unintentional. Uh, like some of the over the topness, I think it's more tongue in cheek than people give them credit for. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, they were basically superhero movies. They were the superhero movies of the 50s and 60s. It was not, great cinema. It was popcorn cinema. It was, something fun and cheesy and exciting. You had the big strong guy who beat up the bad guys and saved the pretty girl.
I've got $2 and 5 hours to kill.
Now
You
you've
know,
I know that you're a fan of the Machiste character, right? And he's been in some very classic films. Some films that are very influential. Uh, like I forget the title. I might have the title right actually, because the titles don't tend to be very creative. But like Machiste Goes to the Underworld or Machiste Goes to Hell.
Yeah,
It is an extremely influential movie in terms of its visual style. Uh, like it basically codified the cinematic language for how we view like depictions of the devil.
yeah, like it. If you want to talk about some of the really good stuff that is considered critically acclaimed, the silent era Machiste stuff is definitely up there. You know, uh, he actually originated as a character in a very early costume epic from 1914 that was a historical drama about the Punic Wars. And, it was a very important film out of Italy for various reasons, culturally and as well as cinema wise. It was by Gabriele D'Annunzio, who's a very, very, very famous Italian writer and philosopher. And the thing is, though, it's you kind of have to be a silent cinema buff to really appreciate it because it's very, very primitive cinema. If you even watch the stuff from like the 20s, like the silent Ben-Hur, the cinematography in that and just the engagement and pacing is miles above where Kabiria was. But it in a way I think they kind of acknowledged that because Machiste was a minor character in the first movie, but he was a breakout character sensation, which is why for most of the subsequent movies they went for kind of the, like I said, the Buster Keaton physical action acting kind of approach.
Yeah, I'm afraid
But
that.
you
Oh, I'm sorry. Finish
Yeah, I
up.
was going to say, but you mentioned Machiste in Hell or Machiste in the Underworld. The silent version of that is considered a classic masterpiece of silent cinema for its special effects, and the costuming and special effects in that particular one are impressive, like even to this day. But again, it's one of those things where if you're not a fan of silent cinema, like you're not gonna watch these and be like, "Oh, I like silent cinema now."
Yeah, I will say that that's definitely a hole in my knowledge of cinema and eras of cinema is the silent era. I have tried. hard sometimes to like watch and
And
enjoy some
it's
sort
not
of
easy. Some of the stuff that
movie.
is considered classic, like I could barely sit through Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, which is considered like one of the absolute all-time masterpieces of silent cinema. And I'm just like, this is such a slog.
What did I enjoy? I really enjoyed the only silent film I ever remember enjoying, and it's been like, when I say that it's been years, I mean I must have been a child when I saw this. Was like, but the Lon Chaney Phantom of the Opera, I vaguely
Mm.
remember being fairly at least captivated by the mask. That's certainly the most horrific version of the Phantom ever put on screen or stage.
I
Uh,
I enjoyed
and
Faust.
that's pretty much the only reason movies remember it. I think, but
I did watch Faust. I liked it.
so there's also I tried to watch the famous Joan of Arc movie. I don't know if you know what I'm referring to, but it starred can't remember her name, but like the performance at it's a famous silent movie about Joan of Arc. I want to say Recollections, but I think that's the title of Mark Twain's book on Joan of Arc. And it's the trial of Joan, and they just go through the trial of it. Uh, so in the movie, like her performance as Joan, the lead actress, Renee something, uh, the lead actress is considered to have put on like one of the great acting performances in the history of cinema, and the cinematography is so intense and whatever. And I have tried to watch it on at least 3 different occasions, and I've never been able to finish it because it's so dreadfully boring. It's just her sitting there giving, basically answering questions from these guards. And yes, they use a lot of really cool camera angles. And yes, her performance is very good, though I contend that the performance in this silent version of Joan of Arc, in fact, I'm going to look it up so I can get my names right. Silent film, Joan of Arc. I contend that the Passion of Joan of Arc, that was it. Uh, there you go. That was the answer. It was the Passion of Joan of Arc, and the actress was Renee Falconetti. So I was right about the name Renee. Uh, yeah, Renee Falconetti. It's considered one of the best films ever made. Blah blah blah. I actually will contend, and I will still contend to this day, that Renee Falconetti, though her performance was brilliant, she was not a particularly good Joan of Arc. Uh, she plays the role with too much vulnerability, which is a problem to me when you're talking about Joan of Arc. Uh, and my question to people when they react with shock and horror, people who know this movie, that I would criticize her performance is: can you imagine Renee Falconetti's Joan of Arc tricking her captor into her cell and almost escaping from the jail? Because the real Joan of Arc did that, and I cannot imagine her character doing that in the movie. In fact, her vulnerability and her helplessness is arguably the most memorable thing about the Passion version of the character, and that doesn't really represent Joan to me. But it's a brilliant performance in a very boring film, honestly. It's just so many standing there answering questions with weird camera angles.
Let's get back to the
And I
90s.
know that, what else was there? If you were, by the way, if you were trying to say something, because I noticed your screen blink like you were speaking, I did not hear anything. So if you said something, I
Oh,
missed it.
it's probably just ambient noise on my end. I don't have a good working mic.
I see. Okay. I just wanted to
Sorry.
make sure that you didn't speak and I missed it, because that's why I paused, because I was like, oh,
No.
is he trying to say something? So there you go. But anyway,
No, but yeah, one thing I was going to say about the silent era stuff is I've found that the silent era stuff that focuses on weird special effects and experimental effects, as well as strong physical acting, tend to hold my attention a lot better than some of the other ones. Which is why, like I said, I do like Nosferatu. I loved Cabinet of Dr. Caligari. Couldn't really get into Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. The the first Machiste movie, Cabiria, has some beautiful set pieces to it, but the pacing is kind of dull. The later Machiste movies, where it's more focused, on the character, his strength and action in wild, outlandish situations. Those are a lot easier to watch and follow. I felt like.
Yeah, I think in some ways, when you're looking at the silent era of films, I don't mean to, and I know that there will be diehards that would rip my head off for this, but I think in some ways the best value to watching them is to see things like, how they did old fashioned special effects, and how they told stories, without talking, without words and things like that, right? Like, less than saying that you're gonna watch the best movies per se. With that said, this is sort of like a one-armed man arguing in favor. This is a metaphor I read by the author Tony Hillerman once, who was arguing for something, and he says, "I'm sort of like a man with no left arm arguing in favor of right-handed bowling." Uh, so that's sort of the position I'm in here. Having tried and failed to watch silent films, I also rented Wings, I think, which is the one that won the Oscar. The only silent film to win an Oscar. Uh, I rented it on YouTube and tried to watch it and like gave up halfway through because I was so bored with it. So that would put me in the category of, the man with no left arm arguing in favor of the benefits of right-handed bowling. Uh, right, like I clearly just don't click with silent films.
Yeah, well, if you're not into silent films, there are plenty of Machiste talkies from the 60s, as well as other classic sword and sandal adventures,
And quite
whether they
frankly,
be starring Hercules, Thor, or other various heroes.
what we're here for is the more modern stuff that you're making right now, although it is inspired by those silent films. Um, quite frankly, I view a lot of the stuff with silent films to be, of their time, but enjoyable if you know what you're going into. Like I said, I enjoyed Faust. I was looking for Faust. I wanted to watch it. Uh, I could barely handle some of the black and whites that came up. I am a pleb, sadly, in a patrician's body. But I'd like to talk about the authors you've brought in to work on your stories. Misha Burnett is a friend of the show. We had him on to promote his Small Worlds, which, by the way, Cirsova, has come into my possession. Uh,
Hey, that's great to hear.
oh yeah, and they even look undamaged. Thank Amazon, Bezos above. Misha Burnett, he's a pretty great author. He has a nice style that's, I guess I would say, a bit quick-witted. It's got a beat to it that I absolutely adore. Then we have Abraham Strongjaw. Now he's a new name I don't recognize. What can you tell us about him?
He's been in a few issues of Cirsova. He hasn't had a lot of time to write stuff lately, but he wanted to get something in on this anthology. So I'm like, sure, let's do it.
Hey, that sounds fun. Says here he wrote Texas Goth, and he's got a Neptune trilogy. Uh, then make sure that's that. And then Nathan Dabney. His name I've heard before, though I don't recall. Uh,
You probably better know him as Jim Fear 138.
yes, I know him very well. He's a good friend. Well, I don't know if he's how much of it he knows me or whatever, but I know he's on our side, which is important. Then we have Michael Tierney, which we've had on the show before. Wildstar and everything else like that. Great guy. Certainly has a nose for adventure. Then after him, we have Owen G. Tabard. Uh, him I don't remember as well.
He's a little bit newer on the scene, at least in our circles. We published one story of his last year, and he's got a story coming up in the forthcoming Anvil magazine that's going to be sort of an Iron Age showcase.
Fantastic. Uh, I look forward to that. I wish I could do a bit more with Iron Age, but I've been so filled with my own life and Pinkerton's Ghosts that I haven't participated like I wanted to. But they're doing good work over there. Then we have Adrian Cole. Now, that is a name I've heard several times. And I think I've enjoyed everything of his that I've seen.
Yeah, we've actually just signed on Adrian Cole to do a reprint of his Dreamlords trilogy from the 70s, as well as a companion volume that collects the new Dreamlord stories he's been publishing in Cirsova since 2016.
Nice. I guess that'll have a Kickstarter when it's ready.
Yeah, we'll probably be doing that sometime next year.
Excellent.
We kind of want to do it in the form of the fantasy masterworks type collections to put out a really nice prestige edition. Originally, we had kind of thought about maybe doing them as individual volumes, but even though they've been out of print since the 70s, they're still extant. So you can get copies of the 1970s original issues off Zebra Books for cheaper than we could probably print new ones. So we decided we'll put a standard edition out that's like here's the entire revised collected edition that will be in a matching set with the new stories.
I like it. That stuff's always a lot of fun. Uh, Very good. J. Manfred Weichsel. We've had him on the show before. He's had, yeah, he's certainly interesting to watch work. And uh, so there's a there was a I don't know if you saw this Kursova, but there was a dust up in Iron Age about like not safe for work covers, which wouldn't have been in my eye anyway. Uh, Unknown to the various adventure magazines of the 1940s, 1950s, and such. But it's like, where's the family friendly stuff? I have no idea. I don't even know if I can write something for children. I did write Tears of Elfland, but I don't know if that's quite the same thing as what they're looking for. Um,
Well, with when it comes to Winchell, am I pronouncing his last name right? I'm not even sure.
I thought it
I
was
Uh,
shall, I
Weishall.
believe.
Weichel, sorry, yeah. When it comes to Weichel, I will say that you sort of he is certainly he does not hide what he does. He is very very clear. So it is your own fault if you're blindsided by Weichel's stories.
Yeah, I mean, I enjoy his stuff that he writes and sends to us. There have been times when I'm like, I love this story, but it is so outside of what the magazine publishes, I just can't run it.
Yeah, we had that. So I like telling this story because first it's a peek behind the scenes, and second it's just amusing in retrospect. But I literally I had to talk Ben into inviting him onto the show when they saw the cover of his book. I had read on the recommendation of J.D. Cohen actually. I'd read Jungle Jitters and I greatly enjoyed it and thought it was despite the lurid cover, it's a very moral piece of work in its own way, right? Very dark, and certainly very explicit, but explicit with a point. Like not arbitrarily lurid. And
Yeah,
so I had to talk Ben into letting him onto the show, and literally, and I told him that, and I said I'm not gonna grill you per se. Like I'm not, you're not here to be given the third degree, but I'm gonna ask you, like, basically, why did we invite you here? And you need to justify your presence on the Superversive live stream. And to his credit, he did. He understood why. Like, he's like, fair enough, And it was actually I think one of our more interesting interviews because he I think was up to the challenge. He was able to justify like his writing choices and what he was doing, and I certainly would not recommend him to all audiences all the time. But I think there is a place for the Weichels of the world to work.
Yeah, and this story he did for us is kind of it's one of the only ones that really delves into social commentary and social satire, but I think he did it within the confines of both the genre and what we were specifically looking for this project, that he pulls it off brilliantly.
Yeah, he sometimes if sometimes I think that Weichel leans a little bit too hard into modern social commentary in his stuff, where it affects my enjoyment of a work that is supposedly set in other times. But sometimes he gets it just right and it hits. So it's a balancing act. But I think that when he gets it, there can be really hard hitting commentary there. I yeah, I have nothing else to say about Weichel. I appreciate I appreciate that you have him.
Yeah, and the last guy on the list that you haven't mentioned yet is Mark Mellon. You've probably seen a few of his Melkart stories before in Cirsova, so this is kind of the showpiece of the collection in a lot of ways. We have a full-length Melkart novella.
Nice. I have seen his name before. It's just that, quite frankly, I read a lot and I don't remember it. It's like
Yeah.
saying which.
Well, and in a way, this really fits into the original theme of the Mighty Sons of Hercules, of taking original characters or characters from trunk stories and fitting them into this unified theme, because we've already run Melkart stories. We know Melkart is not really a son of Hercules, but his adventures fit the genre so well. We're running this, and at some point, some of the characters are like, "He must be a son of Hercules." And so that's sort of an example of an existing IP that we kind of managed to shape into something that fits into the Mighty Sons of Hercules, the way that the original Sons of Hercules series would do things like take Machiste movies or other like Goliath movies and fit them into that theme template with just a few little editing tweaks.
Oh yeah, and that's, quite frankly, it sounds like a lot of fun. That stuff always sounds like fun. Just because I do remember, I like it's one of those things that tickles the mind, but doesn't necessarily give answers for it, because yeah, you know, it sounds like a lot of fun. That's all I'll say. So is there plans to continue this on, or just to see how well this does, and then go from there?
Well, we really have to see how well this one does. This was kind of a unique project for us because we got all of the stories on spec.
Yeah.
So we are under agreement that if this funds, we will cut checks to the authors for their stories, and they will allow us to include the stories in the anthology. If we do not meet that funding goal, then we will be releasing the rights to the stories back to the authors, and the anthology will not happen.
Wow. All right. Right now you're about, well, after I give my own donation, you're about halfway there to the $6,000 goal. Uh, you've already got the art and everything for it. It looks like, and I think that's
Yeah.
J. Manfred Weitzel's usual cover artist, isn't it?
Actually, no, that's a Kevin John Jacobs, I believe is his name. He is doing artwork on. I'm trying to remember the name of the comic. Let me look it up right quick.
I do
Uh,
like the look of the Myrmidon.
of course, I can't find it now.
Give me the linen.
But he was one of the artists who was recommended to us by a friend who's doing an Iron Age comic.
Yeah.
And we saw the work that he was doing for that, and the guy's like, "Yeah, you should hit this guy up for some work." And I'm like, "Yeah, I'll try him out for this." Ah, here it is. It's called Paladin Dragoon. Is the comic that he's working on, doing covers and black and white illustrations. I
Yeah.
think he's also doing some stuff with Jacob Kalta, but I know for sure that he's been doing the Paladin Dragoon stuff, and it was the Paladin Dragoon creator who recommended Kevin John Jacob to us.
Right, right. Well, it's certainly good work, which is very much appreciated. Uh, I mean, he's wrestling a crocodile. What more do you want?
Yeah, so because Kickstarters have to have art, we did go ahead and shell out money for the art. We wanted to be able to be as ready to go as possible if it did fund, so we've already paid for the editing. So those two expenses are already paid for out of pocket, whether or not this goes forward. We're paying 2 cents per word on this, which means with 70,000 words of fiction, that's about $1,400 in checks that we have to write for the actual stories themselves. Top that off with anywhere between $1,300 to $2,100 worth of printing costs, $1,600 worth of shipping and fulfilling, plus the Kickstarter fees. That's where you got the $6,000 goal for.
Right, right.
And because we're doing this so close to our open submission period, I was like, I can't really float this out of pocket and still be able to do open submissions and buy stuff for next year for the magazine if we don't fund on this.
Oh, absolutely. There's no sense in destroying, you know, the main show for what might be a curiosity, a good curiosity, but a curiosity nonetheless. Uh, I personally really like the look of the Myrmidon package. A linen wrapped hardcover copy of the Mighty Sons of Hercules. Already got 11 backers. Um, we also have a few others like, the usual paperback and ebook copies. Both even.
And the hardcover is going to be exclusive to the Kickstarter. We're not going to keep it in print. So if you want that reversible dust jacket, you'll have to get it through the Kickstarter.
Ooh, ooh. All right, you sold me. Uh, then we
We're also doing something a little bit different this time. We're taking ads inside of the book itself. So if you want a full page ad in the back of the book, we have tiers for that starting at $100. $100 gets you an ad in the back plus an ebook copy. We also have discounts on paperbacks for people who want to advertise, discounts for hardbacks. So you're getting a paperback copy for half what you would if you just back for the paperback, if you're also an advertiser.
Right, right.
A little more than half on the hardcover, just because the hardcovers cost almost $20 to print.
Ooh, but no, I get you. But it looks like you're taking care of that with the $40 package. Um, yeah, we also have the usual paperbacks and ebooks and whatnot. The advertising thing sounds pretty great. I wish I had the money for it right now myself, but I'm spending a lot on Pinkerton's Ghosts, including cover art and stuff like that, which will pay off, but doesn't help everyone. I do recommend everyone sign in on this and get the various rewards here, whichever ones you need. I know I'll be going for the Myrmidon. And as of course, a benefit of this is that Cirsova, you absolutely deliver, which is some of the best, reputation we can have in the indie sphere. I don't even pay attention to people talking big anymore. It's like if it's not in my hands, I simply don't care. And even today, I have received two books right into my hands that I have backed in the past. How do you do it? How do you do what you say you're going to do?
Uh, you just do the work, man. It's that easy. You do the
Crazy.
work, you have it, and you ship it out.
Wild. Absolutely unheard of. No, but it's a good lesson here. With everything set out, it does feel like it's a project worth going for. We have some responses. Megabuster Shepherd, he likes the one where he, I guess Machiste, fought the Mongols. Italian B movies requires a very high Q to enjoy. He also wants to do those Dreamlord novels, and he looks like he'll be backing you very soon. Excellent, Megabuster Shepherd. Excellent. Good man. Let's see. So, we've talked a lot about the inspirations, the excellent cover art, the just everything that we've got. What else would you like to discuss with the Kickstarter?
Oh, like I said, this really actually is an all or nothing project for us. In the past, we've kind of used Kickstarter to take just general pre-orders. We've set a low goal, everything's been done and paid for. But because we did get everything on spec here, and we don't actually have the money to pay the authors if we don't fund, we do need this to fund to actually make this book happen. And so that's why we've got that $6,000 goal instead of being like, oh, we have a $500 goal. We met our goal in the first 2 hours. No, we need to hit this if we're going to do it.
Gotcha. Uh, so makes it all the more worthwhile. I know I'll be going for the Myrmidon package. Megabuster Shepherd looks like he's picking up something, and I'm sure we're going to see more people flood in as they watch this show. Let's see. All right, if you would rank some silent or otherwise B movies, what do you think is the ideal passage for them?
All right, if you're looking to get into Machiste, I would recommend starting with Son of Samson, which was the first of the revival movies. It stars Mark Forrest, who's one of the two actors who it was the most common actor to play Machiste during the revival era. That one's a good one. If you're okay with the fact that the entire movie is shot day for night and just bright ass noonday sun, Mole Men against the Son of Hercules is probably one of my favorites because it's so cool. It's got so many cool things into it. It's got the weird underground albino people who raid the surface for slaves to power their gem mines. If these weird albino people get struck by sunlight, they burst into flames, leaving only a bleached skeleton behind. It has one of the best openings of just any movie, as far as all you need to know about a character and his background. It starts with Machiste dragging the wreckage of his ship onto the shore by the chain and anchor, and
Amazing.
we don't know where he came from, how he was shipwrecked, what his previous adventure was. We just know that it happened, but as soon as he sees people attacking innocents, he drops what he's doing and goes to deal with that because that is what is important right now.
That sounds like a great deal of fun.
Now, if you want to check out the peplum stuff and the sword and sandal stuff in general, I would I would recommend checking out the original Steve Reeves Hercules movie from 1958 that I've mentioned. I would check out Hercules Against the Sons of the Sun, which is a Mark Forrest one. So it might as well be a Machiste movie, but it's not.
Right,
But
right.
that's the one where he washes up in Mesoamerica, and they're the Aztecs doing their blood sacrifices, and Hercules has to stop them and save the good Mesoamericans from the evil Mesoamericans.
Yes. Uh,
There's also one that is, just a must watch if you're a fan of either franchise. There was an unlicensed Zorro versus Machiste movie from the 60s that is hilarious. It's great. It gives both characters plenty of time to shine and show what they're best at as they try to one up each other. It's a really fun movie.
gotcha. Yeah, no, I just looked up Hercules versus Sons of the Sun. Uh, yeah, all right. Though I'm seeing here that you guys might get some false positives because apparently Death Battle did Hercules versus Sun Wukong, and yeah, all right. Uh, you know what's shocking? I know this is a side thing, but I am always shocked that these things last as long as they've done. Like Screw Attack, like I would have thought Screw Attack would have like died years ago, or self-destructed or something. Like it's just absolutely astounding that they stick around as hard as they do. But then again, it's hard to ruin Death Battle.
Wait, I'm gonna pause here. So pretend I'm stupid. I know that's hard. I don't understand this reference.
What? Oh,
The reference you just made. I don't get it.
so oh man, this is all right, little millennial. Come here and sit on my knee, and I will tell you the story of grandfather's internet. Uh, so back in the day, that you didn't have like YouTube. You didn't have a lot of websites that could spread a lot of information. So you had some aggregate sites like Something Awful, Screw Attack, and a whole bunch of other ones. And on this, they often went through a lot of different things. Screw Attack was mostly gaming, that sort of thing. You had Game Facts. That's probably the most famous one because all it had was a bunch of video game guides, which you needed back in the day because no one had even heard of a Let's Play before. So you then get things like um, from there you have things like their forums. Everyone would go on and they'd have discussions, and the classic one was, would Goku beat Superman in a fight? The answer, of course, is that Superman is going to win all the fights, but people still made arguments like Superman couldn't just fry Goku with his laser vision, uh, which is what he does in the second Superman versus Goku fight. It's pretty great. Uh, in Death Attack or Death Battle. And so Screw Attack started making these videos years ago. It's the same as the epic rap battles of history sort of thing. About the same time period, maybe a little earlier, where you would have things like Iron Man versus Batman, Superman versus Goku, and then they fight it out until one of them's dead. I personally think that the Master Chief versus Doom one was dumb. The Doom guy should have won, but whatever. Uh, so that's what the reference is. It's just characters fighting each other across platforms. Before the multiverse was even a thing, uh, you have Death Battle. you don't understand that there has been more written about death battles than there has in entire countries, Western countries, fields of literature.
If it makes you feel any better, Anthony, I was around for that and I thought it was pretty cringe.
It is pretty
Uh,
cringe, but the animation was pretty great.
no, okay. So I think I know, like, the old, would Goku beat Superman thing is kind of a classic idea, right? I know that they made one that was like Goku fighting One Punch Man, and this is relatively recent. It was like obviously a parody kind of the old Death Battle stuff, and the Goku fighting One Punch Man was basically obviously the joke of One Punch Man is that One Punch Man wins, right? Like, so there are various ways you could do it, and the way that they did it was that Goku kept getting up each time he was one punched, and Saitama just kind of like after the third punch, he's like, "Hey, you're pretty cool. Want to like go want to go work out or something?" And Goku's like, "Yeah, you're awesome." And they just like go off arm in arm, uh, which I suppose is in character for both people. Uh, though personally, I sort of like the idea of Goku going slowly insane as he realizes that Saitama is not never going to lose to him, and Saitama is just completely baffled over why this guy keeps trying to fight him. I think that that's funnier, but hey, yeah, okay. So
Modernist.
what, my version?
Modern. Disgusting. Modern.
I think it's more in the spirit of One Punch Man, though.
It is kind of, yeah.
Re-
Yeah.
It's basically like the one joke of One Punch Man.
One
No,
Punch Man has plenty of jokes.
it does, but they're all variations on that joke.
No. No. Anyway.
They are. Keep
eh,
going. I'm sorry.
Anyway, we're, yeah. I guess you could say, like, the movies have kind of a feel of that about them. But I'd say, but the movies came first. Who would win, Hercules or a bunch of Jaguar warriors or something like that.
Who would win, Hercules or Bigfoot?
Mm. Well, you see, if Bigfoot got the drop on Hercules.
I can't emphasize to you enough just how random this was. Like, I might have been watching it with, like, I don't know, there was somebody else in the room with me, and like Bigfoot literally just like pops up out of a cave at the end, and they start fighting, and like me and the other person looked at each other and just started like crying with laughter, as like, because it's like a Greek story. He fights the Hydra. He's going to all of these like Greek locations, right? Like it's very classical, and then just Bigfoot. And that just ends the movie. Like, apparently there was just some studio mandate that Hercules hadn't fought enough monsters yet. So
Well,
they said, so what monster could we add in, to as a big climactic moment? And they went through the catalog and they said, I guess Hercules hasn't fought Bigfoot yet.
listen, Anthony. As a Nephilim, as a child of Cain, the Bigfoot is a spiritual danger as much as a physical one. Only Hercules had the mental and spiritual fortitude to fight and wrestle Hercules, Bigfoot to the ground.
All right, but I'm going to find that link. I bet you I can. Hercules versus Bigfoot.
This is actually quite fun. Merg Magler Maxis says hardcovers are nice, and I'm thinking Death Battle is pretty bad for accuracy. Their biases are also pretty obvious. Deadpool versus Pinkie Pie was funny though. Megabuster Shepard says, the good old days of space battles in the name of Cain. Oh yeah, like Star Trek versus Star Wars. I can't believe I forgot that. Did you have any personal
So-
favorites, Cirsova?
I didn't really, I wasn't really into those. Sorry.
Yeah. All right. So we've covered the Kickstarter. We've covered all the pieces. I know that you've got things going on in the background. I've got things I've got going on in the background. Is there anything else you'd like to say for today?
Just check out the latest issue of the magazine. Came out earlier last month. Back Mighty Sons of Hercules. And if you are planning on submitting to Cirsova magazine, we are open from August 1st through August 7th. Be sure to read all of the submission guidelines before sending us something. And we always recommend authors considering sending us something to have read at least one issue of the magazine to give yourself a better chance by having an understanding of the kind of fiction that we buy and what we're looking for.
And no elves.
Yeah, no elves.
Elves.
No elves.
No elves. All right. Well, thank you very much for joining us today, Cirsova. I know it was a shorter stream, but we covered what we needed to. Next
Yeah, it
week.
was fun. Thanks for having me.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you, sir. Next week we should have Rachel Dr. I think she's a doctor. Rachel Fulton.
Doctor, I believe.
Yes. Rachel Fulton Brown to talk about her latest projects. One hopes, one hopes. And we'll see you all next week. Goodbye. All right.
Are we off the air?